Qantas is urgently paging passenger Mr. Jeffrey Sampson. Your flight is in the final stages of boarding and is ready for departure.
Hello and good morning. I am on my way to Melbourne this morning. I'm flying with Qantas from Brisbane. Flying in economy, but I'm going to be flying in row 4 of economy, which is the first row of economy class. And I'll tell you about the morning service, the second or third flight of the day on a Saturday.
As I was travelling on 2 separate itineraries for this flight, I had to check in with an agent to make sure that my bags made it all the way from Brisbane to London Heathrow, but that was relatively painless, and at 24.2 kilos my bags were loaded and I was ready to go.
So I'm all checked in, now time for security, head to the boarding area and wait for my flight, and then we're off.
So special to see this beautifully painted Indigenous dot painting 787 aircraft at Brisbane domestic, making its way over to Perth, I assume, for a connecting flight. And also really nice to see the newly renovated dining precinct at Brisbane domestic at the Qantas end. Quite a nice way to sit back and relax before a flight, especially if you don't have lounge access into one of the 3 Qantas lounges. Actually quite a beautiful morning to be travelling. An amazing sunrise and lots of nice Qantas aircraft parked up on the ramp.
So today's flight is actually going to be a Wi-Fi enabled aircraft, a Boeing 737 in economy. So I'm going to be looking forward to trying out the in-flight Wi-Fi service, particularly on this 2-hour flight, which would give me an ample opportunity to be able to actually use this Wi-Fi quite productively or leisurely, as it may turn out. I'm connecting today onto a Qantas A380 international service through to Singapore and then onwards to London Heathrow. So a big day of travel today. Looking forward to it. Haven't been out of the country in a while and I've never flown on a Qantas A380. So stay tuned for that trip report. It's going to be in a separate video, but stay tuned nonetheless. And I've also got some really exciting news. I've just finished my final exams for medical school, and pending the results, hopefully positive, I will be graduating as a doctor in just a few short weeks, which is very exciting, and starting work next year in regional Queensland, Australia. So very exciting time to travel at the moment, and it's one of my favourite things that I like to do after a big year of study. So thrilled to be going over to the UK and then onwards to Europe as well.
So after a phone call and a bit of plane spotting, it was time to board this Qantas flight 605 to Melbourne. Boarding was not particularly organised. It seems that on the weekend all sort of order goes out of place when boarding, but that's alright. It was a pretty relaxed environment nonetheless, and made it onto the plane, no worries at all. I found my seat very easily. I was positioned at seat 4F, and as you can see, it's directly behind the last row of business class, which means that there is ample legroom. The seat pitch is absolutely enormous, and even with my gargantuous legs, I had so much legroom. Fortunately, being on the F seat as well, you don't have that pesky entertainment box blocking some of the footwell, so really, really nice to see. The seat and the cabin is actually quite old, but still reasonable. And as I mentioned, this flight was Wi-Fi enabled, and I'll show you through that a little bit later. Overhead, you've of course got the lights and air conditioning controls for your seat. and there are some drop-down screens which show the safety video and some in-flight entertainment throughout the journey.
Thank you very much. It's also time to ensure your seat back is upright and your tray table is stowed.
But we were loaded up pretty quickly, and it was time to get on our way from Brisbane down to Melbourne, about a 2 and a bit hour flight. And I have to say, it was beautiful weather for flying. A really, really nice morning to take off out of Brisbane. Despite some of the recent bushfires impacting the visibility, today was pretty good considering. So having a little bit of a closer look at the seat, the tray table, as you can see, folds out from the armrest, and it folds out from itself once again, as you can see. It is relatively stable and definitely does the job for a short 2-hour flight. Easy enough to do a little bit of work on there, especially with the seat pitch here. Your laptop can be very easily positioned and your screen appropriately tilted back to give you the best viewing angle. As I mentioned, wanted to try out the Wi-Fi, and as you see, the Qantas free Wi-Fi network comes up on the available Wi-Fi networks, and it's just a quick tap on there to log in. Once connected to the Wi-Fi network, you do have to log in with your name and your seat number, and by accepting the terms and conditions and privacy policy. But once you've followed those prompts, it's away you go and you are connected. You get to the landing page for the Qantas Wi-Fi website, and gives you all of the options. I wanted to check out the Qantas Flight View, which was actually pretty nifty. Got you to experience, I guess, a little bit of an augmented reality view of the route on which we were flying, and give you a bit of 3D perspective of where we were going and where we were heading. You could also click onto the little markers and read more about the local geography and some significant points along the way of the journey. Most people, though, upon connecting to the Wi-Fi, would probably want to make use of the in-flight entertainment. There is an entertainment tab on this Qantas Wi-Fi landing page, but you are still required to go onto the Qantas Entertainment App, a separate app which allows streaming of the in-flight entertainment through the Wi-Fi to your own device. And as you can see, there is actually quite a decent amount of entertainment options to view, even on this short domestic flight. Lots of premiere and new releases, as well as some classics as well in the movies section. And I haven't shown it, but there was lots of TV shows available to view as well. And this isn't very systematic, but I did do a Google internet speed test while on the plane, and as you can see, you're getting some pretty decent speeds, 13.5 megabits per second downloads. Upload obviously not particularly great considering it's a satellite connection, but all things considered, enough certainly to check emails, browse Facebook and Instagram, and perhaps check out a few websites about your destination. And overall, a really good service. I'm really happy with it. So thanks Qantas for rolling this out on the domestic fleet. Shortly after takeoff, the morning meal service was provided. Being in row 4 meant that I was served nice and early, which was nice. Some cereal, as well as some juice, tea and coffee, as well as a little bit of a muesli bite to get you going on the morning. Nothing too substantial, but I guess enough to, as I said, get you going and give a good start to the day. Some beautiful weather for flying. Obviously you can see the Australian landscape at this point, which was middle of November 2019, was quite dry, and I guess a bit of a precursor to what we saw with the extreme fire conditions throughout December and January in Australia more broadly, which was quite devastating. For those of you who are interested, the lavatories on this 737-800 are nothing special. As you can see, the sink was not draining appropriately for me, which was quite frustrating. And just like that, it was time to touch down in Melbourne, and a quick taxi past the international gates and to the Qantas terminal, and I was on to the next part of my journey. I had a reasonable 2 to 3 hours stopover in Melbourne, and I have to say the connection was pretty easy. And I'll show you in an upcoming video my experience at the American Express lounge at Melbourne International Airport before connecting onto my next flight of this journey, which was a Qantas A380 service, as I previously mentioned, through to Singapore.
Overhead lockers, be aware that bags may have moved and could fall out, so please take care. Once the seatbelt sign is off, you'll be leaving via the front left door and also the rear left door. If you are disembarking via the rear left door, just please use the handrail, the designated walkways, follow the team's directions while you're on the tarmac, and we'll also just ask that those mobile phones and electronic devices are not used until you're well inside the terminal.
So thanks again for joining me on my channel. I know it's been a while between videos, but I do appreciate your support. I will be posting some more videos hopefully in the next couple of weeks, so please stay tuned. Thanks for liking. Please feel free to leave a comment. Not all comments are positive, I understand that, but I don't know, it's good to have a discussion. So thanks again, and see you next time.